This happened to me in 2018 when I was camping with my cousin in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I've done a lot of camping in my life. Solo trips, road trips, sleeping under tarps, you name it. So when my cousin Nate suggested a late October weekend in the Upper Peninsula, I didn't think twice. We both needed the break, and there's something peaceful about being far from everything. No service, no people, just trees and silence. We picked a primitive site, one of those unofficial spots marked only by a ring of blackened stones and some old logs people dragged over to sit on. It was about an hour down a gravel road and another 15-minute hike through thick trees. Total seclusion. Perfect. We got there early afternoon. By 4, we had the tent set up, a fire going, and dinner started. Just 2 guys, cheap beer, and nothing but rustling leaves for miles. Around 10:30, we'd already told our best stories, and Nate was half asleep in his camping chair. I threw another log on the fire and leaned back, watching embers shoot into the sky. That's when I heard it. A branch snapping. Not far. Maybe 30 feet behind our tents. Now, forest sounds at night are normal. You hear things, deer, squirrels, raccoons. But this was deliberate, like a person stepping on something heavy. I froze, looked at Nate. He hadn't heard it. Then another snap. Slower, closer. I whispered, "Did you hear that?" Nate perked up, rubbed his eyes. "What?" And then she stepped into the firelight. She couldn't have been older than 18 or 19, wearing a dark hoodie, jeans, and carrying a half-zip backpack like she'd been walking for hours. She didn't look panicked or lost, just blank, expressionless. She stopped right at the edge of the light and said, "Can I get a ride?" I remember blinking, confused. "What?" She took a slow step forward. "I just need a ride. Anywhere." Now keep in mind, we were miles from the nearest road. There were no cars, no lights, no signs of other camps. She had no flashlight, no map, no gear. Nate stood up slowly. "Are you okay? Did you get lost?" No answer. She kept glancing toward the trees behind her, not nervously, just as if someone else might come out next. I asked, "Where did you come from?" She ignored that, looked straight at Nate, then said, "I don't like it out here anymore." That line, I still hear it sometimes in my head. Not scared, not sad, just flat, like someone commenting on the weather. Nate looked at me, then back at her. "We don't have a car out here," I said carefully. "We hiked in." She paused, glanced at the trees again, then looked at me and said, "I can wait until morning," and then sat down. Not on a log, not by the fire, just on the cold ground 5 feet from my tent. Something was wrong. You could feel it the way animals go quiet before a storm. My stomach felt tight. My skin started crawling, like every instinct was yelling at me that something didn't fit. I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "Look, maybe it's better if we walk you back toward the road." She didn't move, just looked up at me like I'd suggested something offensive. Then she said, "He told me not to go back." Nate asked, "Who?" She didn't answer. For the next few minutes, we just sat there. Nobody spoke. The fire crackled. A breeze picked up and I could hear trees creaking in the distance. The only light was from the flame and our headlamps. Then, without saying anything, she stood up and walked back into the trees. No rush, no panic. Just walked. I turned to Nate, and he was already reaching for his knife. "Dude," he said under his breath. "What the hell was that?" We stayed up the rest of the night, backs to the fire, watching the woods, not saying much. Every branch snap or owl hoot made my heart jump. But we didn't see her again. When the sun finally came up, we packed in 10 minutes. We were too creeped out to even eat breakfast. On the hike back to the car, Nate kept checking behind us. We reached the parking spot, and that's when we both stopped cold. Footprints, fresh ones, in the dirt by our car. Not hiking boots, not shoes, bare feet. They led out of the woods, circled the back of the car. then disappeared back into the trees. I wanted to say it was hers. Maybe she found a road and walked there after us. But she wasn't barefoot the night before. She wore shoes. I remember. So unless someone else had been watching us, we drove in silence for miles. Eventually, Nate just said, "What if she wasn't lost?" I didn't answer. I didn't have one. All I know is she didn't act like someone who wanted help. She acted like someone waiting for a signal. And whatever she was waiting for, we almost gave it to her. We still talk about it sometimes, but we've never gone back. And now, whenever I'm deep in the woods, I remember her face. That flat voice. The way she looked over her shoulder like someone else was standing just out of sight. Was she running from something or leading it to us? What would have happened if we said yes? Was I just paranoid, or did we almost become part of something we'll never understand? This happened to me in the summer of 2020 when I was camping in the Appalachian woods with two friends. I didn't grow up being outdoorsy, but in my mid-20s, I got into hiking and camping through a friend of mine named Max. He was one of those guys who thrived in the woods, knew how to read trails, filter water, even identify animal tracks. So when he invited me and his cousin Sam on a 4-day backcountry trip, I figured, sure, why not? We planned it around mid-July, packed light, and drove up to a lesser-used part of the Appalachians in North Carolina. It was one of those stretches of forest where the trees feel endless. No reception, no marked campgrounds, no people. Exactly what we wanted. For the first 2 days, everything was perfect. We hiked all day, cracked jokes, made camp, slept under the stars. The weather was warm, the food was crap, and it felt like freedom. But the third night, that's when we saw it. We had made camp about a mile from a stream we found earlier. It was a quiet little clearing surrounded by thick trees. The sun had just dipped behind a ridge, and everything had that bluish dusk glow. You know that moment where the sky's fading, and the woods start to feel too quiet? That's when Sam pointed through the trees and said, "Is that another group?" We turned, followed where he was pointing, and sure enough, way off in the distance, through a break in the woods, we saw something. A fire. Faint, flickering orange. Maybe half a mile away, nestled between some trees. And not just a spark or someone's flashlight, full-on campfire. At first, it was kind of a relief. We hadn't seen a single person since we parked. Max figured it was another group of hikers, probably on the same stretch of trail, and it was nice to know we weren't the only ones out there. But that wasn't the part that scared me. It was dead quiet, like we couldn't hear anything from that direction. No voices, no crackling, no movement. And the weirdest thing, the fire didn't flicker like a normal one. It sort of glowed, constant. No shadows dancing on the trees. Just this perfect little orb of orange tucked between the trunks. Max wanted to check it out. Said maybe we could say hi, see how far they were going, maybe trade supplies. But I had this feeling in my gut. Not panic. Just a wrongness I couldn't explain. Like we were looking at something that wanted to be seen. Still, Max grabbed his flashlight, Sam followed. And I didn't want to be the coward, so I went too. We walked for maybe 10 minutes, moving slowly over the uneven forest floor, keeping our eyes on that soft orange glow. But the closer we got, the further away it seemed. I know that doesn't make sense. We were walking toward it, but it wasn't getting clearer or louder or closer. Just always, right there behind the next line of trees. Finally, Max stopped and said, "Wait, do you guys smell smoke?" We didn't. And that's when it clicked for all of us. We couldn't smell, hear, or feel the fire. Just see it. We moved faster, now getting a little freaked out. Max called out, "Hey, hello," but got no response. We reached the spot where it should have been, and there was nothing. Just trees, dirt, some dry leaves, No ashes. No burned wood. Not even a fire ring. Just empty ground. Like there had never been anything there. We stood in silence. None of us spoke for a full minute. Then Sam whispered, "I don't think we should be here anymore." We turned back fast, retracing our steps to camp. But here's the thing. The way back took longer. Almost twice as long. We kept seeing landmarks we hadn't seen before. The trail looked different. And at one point, Max stopped and said, "Didn't we pass this log already?" We got back eventually, maybe an hour later, and we were wiped out. None of us wanted to say what we were thinking out loud, but you could feel it. That something about that fire wasn't right. And that's when I realized. The fire was gone, even from a distance. No glow. No trace. We didn't sleep that night. Just sat by our own fire, facing outward. Listening. Around 3 a.m., Sam swore he heard someone walking just beyond the tree line. Not footsteps exactly, more like pacing. Max shined the light in that direction, but nothing was there. We left at first light the next morning. Cut the trip short. No one argued. When we got back to town, I looked up the area. Didn't find anything specific, just a few vague forum posts, hikers saying they'd seen strange lights in that stretch of woods. But no one described it like we saw it. That perfect fire that left no trace. Sometimes I wonder, what if we hadn't turned back? What if we kept walking, chasing it deeper? Would we have made it back at all? I still go camping, but never in that area. And every time I see a fire in the distance, I wait for the smell, the sound, something real. Because I learned one thing that night. Not every fire in the woods is made by people. And not every light wants to be found. Was it just a strange illusion, or were we being lured somewhere we weren't supposed to go?